all I know is this. If you've ever been audited and you do something you shouldn't have done, I've been audited a couple times and I don't mess with them. I do what y'all tell me to do, accountant people. I give you everything you need, CPA, bookkeeper, I give you everything, man. You take it, you ask me questions, I tell you the truth, you file my taxes. I don't ever think when people go oh my God, does it disgust you and how much you pay in taxes? No, it means I'm doing well. No, my goal is to pay as much as I can pay in taxes. The more I pay, the more I've made. All right, welcome to another episode of Punch Me in the Face. I appreciate you jumping on today. We're going to talk today about taxes. And I mean taxes as an independent contractor, entrepreneur. You're just getting started and you're thinking to yourself, and a lot of people when they get started, I mean, let's be honest. I was a W-2 guy since I was I don't know. I worked before I was 16, as a job, with working papers, a real job. I didn't have any real income, so I didn't really have a lot of taxes to pay. But by the time I was 18, dude, I understood taxes. But I understood them as a W-2. You take my taxes, I figure out my elections, you let me know if I have money come back at the end of the year or not. I typically just found a way to almost have it break even, and that was it, right? When you become an entrepreneur and independent contractor, it's very important to understand a few things. Number one, you have to understand what tax bracket you believe you're in. And what I mean by that is, you know what you're in today. My job, Shawn, pays me $73,000 a year. Okay, got it. What do you anticipate? I mean, you have to decide, man, this year, I just got started in January. I'd like to make an extra $70,000 doing this. Okay, what is making $140 gonna do to you? What does it do tax bracket-wise? What do you already have for deductions? Do you have a mortgage? Are you paying interest on it? What do you have that's deductible already? Because the problem is, I remember back in the day, and I haven't done my accountant's been doing them forever now, but I'd I think it was 1040 EZ. Here's what I made. Here's what I mean. It was just me. Boom, boom, boom. Got it. Really nothing to do. Sent that thing in, went down to H&R Block, told me how much I got my money, right? When you decide to become an entrepreneur or an independent contractor, which people will say, well, they're synonymous. No, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that don't work. There's a lot of independent contractors that don't work. But if you're looking to be somebody who's truly going to make an income, if you don't make any income, what I'm saying doesn't matter. If you're playing entrepreneur, playing businessman, you make no money, you got the LLC, you got an account as a DBA, you got one nice suit, and you're telling your friend, your girlfriend, your mom that you're independent, but you ain't making no money. Taxes don't matter, dude. Stop watching, right? For you adults that are hey, dude, I am making some money. I do want to figure this thing out. Number one, what tax bracket am I going to fall into? Now, the first thing to do is hire a good accountant. Hire a good accountant. Now, if you're good at, with QuickBooks and all the things that are out there, it's easy to manage your expenses, right, to walk through it. But you need to have somebody that's looking at your money, income, and expenses, on a pretty regular, at least monthly, and give you an idea of where you're at. You want to stay on track. My opinion is your goal should never be able to get a ton of money back from the government. It makes no sense for the government to have your money all year long and you making no interest on it. That doesn't make any sense to me. No matter what they're doing, you could do something better. Hell, you could put it in your damn savings account and do better than what they're. So you need to figure out, I never, until I could figure it out early, and I paid a lot. And then it was okay, wait a minute, I'm making this, okay. And then it became a little bit more predictable. And my deductions became a little more predictable, right? You have to know what are all your possible deductions. My rule is do everything you can that's legal. Don't mess with the U.S. government. They won 2 world wars and print their own money. Don't fuck with them. Just don't, And if you do things on your own and you do things that are not correct, that are illegal, dude, all I know is this. If you've ever been audited and you do something you shouldn't have done, I've been audited a couple times and I don't mess with them. So I was I wasn't oh my God, I can't. I was dude, what, I do what y'all tell me to do, accountant people. I give you everything you need, CPA, bookkeeper, I give you everything, man. You take it, you ask me questions, I tell you the truth, you file my taxes. I don't ever think when people go oh my God, does it disgust you and how much you making, how much you paying taxes? No, means I'm doing well. No, my goal is to pay as much as I can pay in taxes. The more I pay, the more I've made. So but I want to know my deductions. You know, what is a home office? How do you deduct it? How many square feet can that be? What does that look like? How about my mileage? How does that work? How about my meals? What makes sense? You have to ask your accountant those things. I kept a paper trail and everything, man. I mean, now it's a little different, a lot different than it was when I started as an independent contractor 30 years ago. But I mean, everything's shareable, man. Your credit card, everything is easy, documented, easy to track. You know when you work at as such and such, can you buy these things and they're a write-off? And then over here you can't, right? So my suggestion is get an accountant. You know, they should be as aggressive legally as they can be. That's it. It's really not that complicated. There's no super tricks. There's not. When you're starting out, I'll be honest with you. I mean, most of the tax law at that basic level is pretty basic. You know, when I started doing other things in life, I needed a special accountant. You're right. Like when I was like, okay, I'm going to buy this boat that they call a yacht because how big it is. And if you're going to charter it out, you need somebody that does that and understands that world. Okay, you buy a plane, you're like, okay, you need a guy or girl that's in aviation. Okay, cool. But for my first 20 plus years in business, I didn't need any of that. And then the nice thing about the accountant you choose, when I got into a lot more stuff, my accountant was like, hey, she's like, listen, I always want to help you. I'm always here for you, but I don't specialize in that. That's a little bit, and that's what good businessmen and businesswomen do. If they can't help, they tell you. So early on, track every single dollar, keep every single receipt, ask yourself if this is a business deduction or not. You know, you and I are in real estate together. You take me to dinner. I'm your client. You take me to dinner. I mean, that seems like business to me, right? You and your 3 buddies go out and drink and eat wings all night long. Just because you said my real estate business is going good, I wouldn't, you know, guy told me one time, whenever I travel, I just pick up a real estate book and it's business. And I was like, until you get audited, you know, I'd made every decision based on what if I'm audited. That was just like, can I stand behind this? And my accountant taught me that. She was like, I want you to fast forward to you're audited. What does that look like? And then again, I just really never had the desire. I don't know. I know who the bigger bear is. And between me and the IRS, I'm not the bigger bear. So, you know, but you have to understand too, if you're doing really well, when should you pay your tax? Should you pay annually? I paid annually, but that was a problem because I ended up having to pay. I never really knew. Then I went to quarterly. I said to my accountant, I want you to give me like quarterly, you know, you tell me, almost invoices, like pay this much per quarter. If you're not doing those, you've got to find a way to put your money away. Means you have to be disciplined enough. And what kills most first-time businessmen and businesswomen is they get paid income that's 1099 income, that no taxes are coming out of it at all. They're just being paid. And then they live their lives, personal and business. They buy some things. They live their personal life. Life's good. And before you know it, it's the end of the year. And before you know it, April 15th is upon us. And before you know it, your accountant's like, you owe 38 grand. You're like, 38 grand. And you have $400 in your bank account or 1,200. And you're like, where's the money? Well, I don't have it. You know, I put it back in my bit. Well, you made X amount to owe this much. Where is the money? Now, me early on, I started taking money out of my checking account and putting it in a separate account. Because I just wasn't that, if it was in my account, I would spend it on my business. It wasn't so much personal. I wasn't afraid. I was sober by then. I wasn't so afraid I would go piss the money away. I need to do what I need to do for my family anyway. That was fine. But I knew I'd spend it on my business. If it sat there, I knew I would. And that wasn't my money. And then I got really good. I mean, these formulas aren't all that complicated, right? It's like, okay, I'm going to make this much, then the state's going to take this, the federal government's going to take this, okay? I have roughly this many expenses per quarter, and if those are relatively the same for the year, I'm going to make this, have this as write-offs, my net is this, here's the percentage I'm going to pay to state and federal, I should have this amount of money. And I think, because I'll tell you what, if you save 33 grand, you owe 38, it's not as daunting. You save nothing and you owe 38, that's how people get in trouble. And they treat the IRS like they treat other bills, and you can't. Dude, you don't screw with somebody that can like literally garnish your wages and seize your account. this isn't like, you know, some gym you stopped paying, but you signed up for 2 years. You know, this is a different game, dude. And a lot of times when I'm working with people in business that are looking to do stuff with me, and then you run their credit and you look at some of the stuff they got and you're like, dude, like, how do you owe so much in taxes? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, what do you mean? What do I mean? Like, how are you ever? And what makes me nervous is, dude, I can't do anything with you because I got the government looking over your shoulder. And what if I do something with you and all of a sudden we start making some money? And I partner LLC with you or do one job with you, and I'm not opening myself up to that kind of stuff. So I think a lot of people just don't understand, and that's when they get in trouble, and then they chase it in penalties and fees, and they feel like they never can get ahead, which is actually the reality is they really can't get ahead because it's pretty punitive once you start screwing with them. So that being said, you have to understand that tax burden, and a lot of people don't talk about it. They get you set up in whatever business it is, and you get rolling. You're excited. You seem like you're making a ton of money because you ain't paying anything in taxes. Imagine if tomorrow your W-2 job just stopped taking out taxes. You'd be like, oh my God, I'm rich. You would. I don't care what tax bracket you're in. You'd be like, holy crap, look what I'm making every week as compared to what I was making before. But, you know, at the end of the day, you have to be disciplined and you have to understand the way this works. You know, so I think a lot of people don't. Even if early on you don't get an accountant, which you should, you can figure out what you're going to owe and in rough, you know, rough estimate it, but do something to put yourself in a good position. So when you start as an entrepreneur, understand taxes are a real thing and understand real deductions. And if you don't know, a lot of this stuff you can research on your own and it's not complicated. Somebody's like, if you buy a vehicle over this gross weight, you can do this. And I was like, well, let me go online and look. Then I learned what I could or couldn't do. It wasn't that complicated. And then if I didn't know, I could say to my accountant, if I do this, is this a deduction? Hey, I'm buying this property over here and I'm probably going to work out of it at times. Is that a deduction? Am I able to do that? You know, but a lot of it's sad. It almost should be part of, you know, getting an LLC costs a couple $100. Becoming an independent contractor, you can like just say you are one. There should be some kind of tax education you're required to go through to understand what you're doing because it's what gets most people, you know, especially if you're like robbing Peter to pay Paul because you're making this money, spending it on crazy stuff, funding your business. And also you have to ask yourself, am I profitable? Because at the end of the day, if you're like, you know, I made this much, there are people I know that have thought their businesses were profitable purely because they were like, I made this much. I'm like, yeah, but you owe that much in taxes. Like, what? Well, when I pay that, I'm not making any money. I'm like, okay, well, you made X amount a year. You spent this much over here. Like, dude, like, then you have to factor that in. That is part of your, it ain't affecting your net because, like, here's your net, right? But what are you paying taxes on? But for you as a person trying to provide for your family, what do you actually get to keep? But I've seen more people get in a business for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, not pay taxes, run away, have tax liens. It follows them. It destroys their credit, destroys them, and they're in a much worse financial position than they would have been if they just kept their job and just like done their W-2 thing, called it a day. You know, and I learned this stuff by asking. What's some of the biggest mistakes? Real estate. Dude, nobody ever talked about paying my taxes. Got my real estate license. I went principal practices, did all the hours I was supposed to do. Life was good, ready to go. Nobody ever talked about paying taxes. Nothing. Nobody said you get an accountant. Nobody. I was getting commission checks. Boom, boom, boom. I was 20, early 20s, just cranking. And then one day, one of the guys around for a long time said, hey, man, what are you doing for taxes? How much you putting away? I said, what do you mean? And he said, the money they're paying, you're doing pretty well, dude. You've had, 14 closings in a short period of time. What are you doing for your taxes? How much are you putting away? He said, I put away half for expenses. I was like, damn, I ain't doing that. I said, I don't put away anything. It was probably September. Tell you what, dude, when I went to file my taxes, I did get an accountant to file them that year because there was expenses and there were write-offs and I just didn't want to miss anything. And when the accountant told me how much I owed, I was like, wow, Like I just never, but thank God, I was on early and I had some money put away. I wasn't crazy with this real estate, my expenses. I wasn't, I kind of got into an agency. They paid a lot of the stuff. I just had my monthly fees. So, I was kind of monitored and I did pretty well. But I'll tell you what, had that bill been double what it was, or had it not been disciplined, people see 38 grand they owe when they don't have any money, and it seems so much that's out of sight, out of mind. The other problem is people don't communicate. If I owe anybody anything, I call them right away, legitimately. And a guy called me the other day for a cleaning bill, which I don't think we ever used a service, of $900. But dude, I was on it like immediately. Like, let me call my guy, accounts payable, I got you, call him up, you heard the companies, I haven't, but we bought in between, maybe they cleaned something when we did, maybe it's the other person's bill, but like, dude, you ain't gonna tell me I owe you any money, And when you run your business disciplined, on the tax side, you'll run it disciplined all over the place, right? Because you know. And actually what's funny is it'll make you work harder because you know what money's yours and what money isn't yours. And I just, we don't talk about it enough. Please get a good accountant. And again, he or she doesn't have to be some insanely expensive person. When I say good, I mean diligent, will talk to you. Good, they do things by legal. You're like, if I got an accountant that will be, I'm like, be a little what, dude? It's the IRS. This isn't like you're playing poker and you can see the reflection of the dude's cards in the window, or like, this is the IRS. What do you mean? Can I find somebody that knows law really well and works really hard to make sure that every benefit you get per the law you can receive? Definitely know somebody like that, 100%. But I just think that going into it, you need to make sure if you don't know what an expense is, or if it's a deduction, ask, keep it anyway. Rather go into your meet with your accountant every 90 days. It shouldn't cost you much. Or a bookkeeper, if they have somebody that's a bookkeeper there, bring your stuff in, go, what do you think about these things? I had my accountant go, no, that's not a legit deduction. I'm like, okay, that's why I asked. I had my accountant go, you know what, let me look into that. I don't know. Man, let's go. Let me look and let's do a little more, and then they go, I can stand behind it, Shawn. It is a deduction, but it might raise a red flag, right? I want to know everything, and what's good business sense. And when you run your business that way anyway, and you have an accountant and a bookkeeper could be you in QuickBooks, could be somebody in their office that helps out, logs the receipts, checks everything in. But when you do all that, I've sold businesses. I've helped people sell their businesses. And one of the things I've seen from a lot of people is I've seen people come stumbling in where they are making money. The bookkeeping's okay. I mean, it's not illegal. It's just kind of like, I thought, they're making money. I almost don't even know exactly how much they're making. And I've seen people come in with business maybe a little bit less profitable, but the books are so easy to read and so clean that, before you know it, they're talking to this guy or girl about buying their business and still trying to figure out what data, even though they really do believe your income because they can see the top line. It's just a little bit more of a puzzle. Build a real business that has real cash flow analysis, that has real tax planning, that has real income and real expenses and can spit out any report you want. I don't care how small you think. Well, I'm just doing whatever. I'm just selling this, Shawn, and they're paying me this. I know I owe this at the end of the year. I have a few deductions. Like, what's the big deal? The big deal is if you don't plan properly, you're going to owe more money than you think you are. And guess what? You might not have a great year, and you might go, man, I had a horrible year, I'm quitting. And then your accountant's like, wait a minute, you have all these deductions here. You get to take a loss. Your income over here for your job was 110 grand a year. This brings your income down. And before you know it, wow, okay, it was a learning year, but you're going to get some money back because of these things over here. Okay. So I think that, there are times that when I launched multiple businesses, I had a guy say to me, well, this one's like eats a lot of cash. I go, well, it doesn't make any money yet. It's early, but I have all these other things that are making money. And I'm not looking for deductions, but that is a loss in this fiscal year, this calendar year that I get to write off. Like, that is part of it. I wasn't intentional, believe me, but there is some kind of, I want to weigh everything, right? The pros and the cons, or some kind of some kind of light at the end of the rainbow when you know at least all of that's not being held against you. So get a good accountant, doing your own research, keep your books really clean. If you're great at QuickBooks, you got somebody else that is great. You can handle your own stuff, great. The accountant's probably got somebody to keep the books. Once I got decent size, man, I met my accountant every month. Just made me feel better about where we're at. You could do it every 6 months or you can wait once a year. And if you haven't been planning, you got to put money away. And again, go through your tax bracket, look at basically what you'll be netting. I mean, with what's online nowadays, dude, there's some pretty amazing calculators out there to help you figure out about just about everything. So, but if you don't plan for your taxes, I can promise you that the business and lack of planning is going to be very punitive and you're going to wish you did. It's really hard to recover from owing money, then penalties, late fees, the negative ramifications that come with it, or you really not knowing what you do or don't make and looking at your spending. Problem is most entrepreneurs get their money and think it's theirs forever and they spend it. They might be in a business where they make a sale, but the sale didn't really go through and they got advanced and they owe the money again. Sold a couple cars, they didn't make it through however many days they didn't make it through. Sold a few construction jobs and 3 of the people are like, no, I'm good, man. I'm not going to do it. But you got fronted money. There's a lot of that too. To be profitable, you have to be disciplined. To be disciplined, you have to be informed. And to be informed, you have to ask and network. So I hope that helps here at Punch Me in the Face. Appreciate you jumping on. Like, subscribe, share. Let me know if you have any questions, comments about any of this content. We'll just keep trying to give back, put you in a better position.